Man.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Rancher in Stilettos presents Cocktails and Conversations. My name is Marsha Williams Cromer, and I am super hyped to introduce my guest for today. That is Dr. David B. Bowie. Hello, Dr. Bowie.
Hey,
Welcome to the show. It's so good to see you.
thanks for having me. Good to see you too.
Yeah. So just, to let folks know, we have a relationship. We're cousins. Don't get to see each other in person as much as we would like, but fortunately, we have our family Zoom call, so we get a chance to stay in touch. I actually feel like I have a whole new cousin and part of the family because of those calls
Yeah,
that started because of COVID. And I'm just amazed that we are keeping it going and getting to know each other better.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank you again for coming on the show, but I also am just honored that you, as a pastor in our family, have you're one of the few men that I know who have read all three books, which makes you not just a kind of a pretender rancher, but you're a real rancher. You've read all the books.
Of course. You wrote them.
Oh yeah, and I know mad love for you, brother. Mad love. You know what? I just appreciate it so much. And I not only have you read the books, you actually hype them up for me. I know you support me in every single way. So I just wanted to have you on to talk from a male perspective. Talk to me. What makes you a rancher other than the fact that I'm your cousin?
Well, it really fits because although I grew up in the city, as long as I can remember, I've just been crazy about horses.
Okay.
So that's the main thing. My dad grew up with horses and it's like, okay, whatever. But for me, not being around them all the time, I always wanted to be. And so I've just been fascinated and attracted to anything that has to do with horses, especially in the Western style.
Okay.
So you give me Texas, here we go.
Okay. I
So
had you with the
yeah.
name. Okay. All right. But once you started reading it, it was a little different, I'm sure, than what you expected. But it does give
Hmm.
some background to not only my history, but it kind of, I gave the character, the lead character's aid, basically my background.
Hmm.
You don't hear too much of Black cowboys or Black, especially female cowgirls, but it is real. There are
Yeah.
Black people who own ranches and raise cattle and different animals. And I grew up riding a horse, not just at a petting zoo, but every day, after school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just wanted to ask you the question about the book itself, the characters, or is that what resonated with you?
Well, first of all, just let me say this. I was forewarned about the rancher being in the title and that it's not a Western in the
Yes.
in the classic sense. So that did not deter me. I came at it with some curiosity because I wanted to see what Marsha had to write.
Okay. I love.
And among the characters, they're interesting. I can't say that there's any one other than the Star's Aid that stands out or that I identify with.
Right.
It's a story about a bunch of Black women. So
Right.
I'm an observer. I'm the audience.
Right.
And then that's how I am with the rest of the story. Being a romance, I'm the audience.
Hmm.
You know, I guess some guys could read or watch a romance and be particularly attracted to one of the characters. But I'm a visual person. Now, maybe if I saw them, I will admit, might say, Dolores is,
Okay,
but
got it.
but I would say it very quietly.
Since you're married to my friend Angie too.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, you know what? As a male reader, I know there are just, a million other genres that you could have chosen, but you did read mine because you love me. as a
Hmm.
story, I want to hear your take on the story. And, do you think that it's a great story? Did it on some level, well, obviously you read the second one and then the third book. So you didn't just hate it, is what I'm trying to say, cousin, right?
Right. Yeah. It left me wanting to know what's going to happen next. And you often when I read, I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen next. And then I want to find out if I'm right. And there was a little bit of that going on.
Hmm.
But I think I appreciate anything, whether it's fiction or semi-fiction like this is, about Black folks being successful.
Right, right,
Now,
right.
these arenas are not the arenas that I'm familiar with, business and fashion and so forth. Nonetheless, to see someone become quite successful is a very positive thing. It's one of the things that we need. Um, we need things to lift us up and give us hope, even if it's fictitious.
Right,
So,
right.
I appreciated that. And you also gave me a little bit of insight into those things that I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
A little bit of understanding of fashion and that whole international thing.
What about the dating scene? I mean, I know it's been years since you were there, but
Hmm.
the love interest of the main character's age, she's, obviously trying to, through the course of the series, decide what a real relationship looks
Hmm.
like for her. And
Right.
to her credit, she's come out of a divorce. She obviously is young enough that she's like, I'm looking forward to my next relationship. Those opportunities are there.
Hmm.
But she also, I think, and I give her credit for being really discerning, because I think we as women, a lot of times we just want to feel it. We just want to feel it. And so we approach it with our hearts, I mean, full
Hmm.
on. And she is just at that point in her life where she's saying, let me really be a little bit more sensitive to the fact that everybody puts their best foot forward in the beginning. What does that look like? What is this person's character that after 2 years in, am I going to still have respect for them? Are they showing me things that let me, kind of wonder maybe a little bit about their integrity? The main character's boyfriend that, is through the main books, she loves this guy. I mean, this guy is, whining and dining her. He's got, a life to back up everything he's doing, to support her. And he is truly supportive and even understands that
Hmm.
he can't come in too hard or he may push her away. Having said all that, do you feel that Corey, the main character's age, boyfriend throughout the series, do you feel like he was trying to use money as a tool with her to gain her trust, gain her, confidence in what a relationship would be like? Because
Yeah.
pushes that off a lot.
I, I thought about that, but it's like, if you have that kind of money, you would have to be really, really creative and intentional not to use it. Because if you have that kind of money, that's just your flow.
Right.
And, I don't have that kind of money, but I can't imagine. Um, Now, I've seen stories where people are, royalty and so forth, and they just hide their real identity. He doesn't.
Right. Right.
And so I don't feel like he's being manipulative with his use of his resources. It's just like natural. And he's not holding back. Now, he could hold back. We don't know a whole lot about his story, his backstory, but as somebody who has a lot of resources, he has probably experienced enough where he wants to be somewhat careful because he doesn't want someone who just wants him for his money. I think there was something in there that he has picked that up from other people, that they're attracted to his wealth.
Right. Right.
So he manages to navigate with her being as openly and completely himself without holding back on his own big picture.
Okay. Okay. But let me remind you, let's go back to book
Mm-hmm.
one. Z
Mm-hmm.
is with the brother from New York. She's with
Mm-hmm.
Lenny. He knows that there is an attraction there, that they literally have, like, this relationship that's lasted for years. He's
Mhm.
intimidated by that. So I do feel that he does use his money. Case in point, he finds out that Zayd cheats with Lane. And I mean, how cutthroat is it that this dude goes and buys the company that Lane works for so he can lay him off?
Yeah.
And I mean, and
Yeah.
Zay took that to heart. She was just like,
Mhm.
it's really cold, and she still cares about him. And just to flip the script, there is a piece in the series where on the other side of it, Zayd is caught in a business transaction that's going south. And Lane, in his quest to get her back, happens to show up in Paris. Because he's there, he overhears a conversation between one of her potential business partners where she's basically
Mhm.
undermining her. And his love for her, gets him like involved, and he wants her to know, hey, you can't trust these people. She is trusting Corey, her boyfriend.
Mhm.
And then Lane comes in and basically peels this onion back to say, none of these people are what you think they are. She appreciates that, but what it does for Corey, Mr. Throw Your Money Around, he basically buys their business away from them. So, they're lost, they're cut out of it because he doesn't want to mess things up with Zay. To me, that is manipulative. You know, you
Okay.
we can't be as resourceful as him because we just don't have the resources. But like you said, to your point, he's got the resources. And I do feel that on some levels, in a lot of ways, he uses it in a manipulative way. You may also recall initially he finds out about the cheating situation with Lane. They were used to being flown out for their quarterly meetings in San Francisco. And what happens? They break up, and he's like, well, let them fend for themselves. And as soon as they kind of connect in the bathroom and things look like they're going his way again, he has his driver go and pick up all their clothes and bring them to the house. So we're elevated, not just at the point of a fancy hotel. Now you're at his house. So all of these things, and I'm talking to those ranchers who love Corey because Corey is that dude, who could just like take care of you or whatever. But if, as a grown up, you're not aware of when you're being manipulated, you may choose to,
Mhm.
that's cool. Who buy me a car, buy me a house, whatever. Okay, you may choose that's the way you want to go. But to Zayd's credit, she actually wants to be her own person at all costs.
Mhm.
And so when she sees him, he does it with her friends. He's always trying to like help get them out of trouble, but the reasons are not genuine. They're disingenuine in that all he wants is to find an easy way, which money is not a problem for him, to have they love and appreciate him. Now, after doing all that, as a man, I'll ask you the question, would you go that far? There are things that you can offer, but would you go that?
Mhm.
You wouldn't go that far to manipulate a relationship.
Well, I've been in one for a long time, so
Right,
it's hard for me to imagine what I would do
right.
had I that those kind of resources and so forth.
But you're a pastor, and people come to you with this stuff all the time, where they're trying to, figure out how to save a marriage.
Um, it makes me wonder about myself when you mentioned all the things that Corey did that I had forgotten about and overlooked. And, I don't know if it's a male thing of just being so willing to forgive a guy
Mhm.
or not notice it. I mean, I did notice those things, but I don't remember um, much of what I thought about it. I didn't dwell on it. I
Right.
think that's either something about my personality to just move on through the story, or maybe an innate male thing of saying, "Oh, it's so cool, it's all right, he's a guy." I really don't know what that was, but as you kind of spelled those out, I'm like, yeah, that's right, he sure did.
Yeah. So as you reflect on it now, can
Mhm.
you now see more as we go to book two and to book three, why she was doing remember the pro and con list all
Yeah, yeah.
so,
Mhm.
and she didn't tell us, the reader, she gave no insight into anything except she is a thinking woman and she is
Mhm.
not just going to, let somebody doing nice things for her make her decide or make a life decision that it, really doesn't add up for her. She doesn't
Right,
need to be taken care of. First of all, she is a woman of means. She's worked all her life. She's built her own wealth. So that's not even something that's that attractive. Of course, we all want to do that. Has got his act together and got things on the ball, right? But
right.
that was not the most important thing. So let me ask you this question. Based on that, now you look at relationships in general and you think, how many times do we miss those signals that
Yeah.
I'm actually wooing you and trying to have you get interested in me, and I'm not really listening to, as this thing they say now, your love language. It's
Mhm.
almost like Corey was deaf to those things. So, question for you: do you think some of that may have been the fact that he was white and the environment that he grew up in, where everything could be transactional, whereas the way she grew up out in the country, you had to really kind of be a good friend because you knew at some point you were going to need a good friend.
Yeah. I think some of it, and I might have just kind of accepted this and blown it off too, is that one thing about the difference between being white and being a person of color in this culture is that's something I realized a few years back. White people don't walk around thinking about the fact that they're white all the time.
No,
Whereas people of color, especially African Americans with whom I'm most familiar, we
right?
are never exempt from that thought, that awareness. Now, maybe it's that someone who is very wealthy doesn't walk around thinking, "Oh, I'm so rich, I can do anything I want to." They just do it. There's certain things that they may just take for granted. And yes, it creates a certain blindness, deafness to other things. Granted, Corey seems to be trying to be understanding of things
Yes,
that are outside
true,
of his frame of reference. And
true,
I've given kudos for that.
absolutely.
But, um, I knew when I look at her, one thing I appreciate about her is that things are complicated. And despite her gifts, she's got certain insecurities. She's vulnerable, despite being so worldly wise and so forth. So she's, in such a short book, you're able to demonstrate it's not just cut and dry. A lot
Right.
of times, shorter stories reach a conclusion too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It said that was too easy. Wait a minute, it's not that simple. But she is a whole person with strengths and uncertainties. Because I see, when she's making these decisions, some of her girlfriends are like, "Girl, just do this, just do that. It's just so clear." But it's not that simple.
Right. Right.
And I appreciate that you were able to show that in such a short story.
Thank you. Thank you. And to your point, Zayd is, the protagonist. She is the person that's driving the story, but you get to learn so much about her. And you remember, this was my COVID baby. This was what I was going to write because it's a
Mhm.
story that I've had for, in my head for years. COVID put things on pause, and I thought, let me just write the book.
Yeah.
But I felt that because people don't have the time to read the way we used to, there's so many things distracting us and vying for our attention. I thought I intentionally left the first book on a cliffhanger, thinking I'll follow up, and then everybody get a chance to see the next part of the journey.
Hmm.
Now, the third book I really was kind of that was fan driven. Yeah, that was readers just not ready to say goodbye to Zayd and the girls and the guys. So
Hmm.
the third book. But with and honestly, as a writer, depending on where I am in my life, impacts who my character and what their experience is going to be. What did you feel about the third book and how I kind of brought things home with the third book?
Yeah, yeah. You kind of pulled an old Henry on us. You know, that mean it was a surprise ending. This other character emerges and he's got a lot going for him, but like, okay, whatever. I'm thinking he's just a side thing. You know, he's just something to give a little bit of flesh to the story.
Right.
But he's so much more than that. And so you come up with this magnificently unexpected ending, which is something I appreciate because, like I say, I frequently try to know what's going to happen before it happens. I
Right.
can't help that. So yeah, you came
Didn't
along
see it coming, did you? You did not see it coming. Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. I mean, he was there, and I thought it was interesting because he brought out some other things, and I figured that was his purpose, was just to
Right.
bring out some other stuff about her and how she figures life out.
Right.
But you know,
Okay.
yeah,
One
it was
other
great.
thing, I'm curious to get the male perspective. So you know that of the six women, the dreamers, Charmaine, the funny one, is really over the course of the story, Zay's best friend. How did you feel about the implosion of that relationship? It didn't really implode, it just ran into some major headwind.
Yeah, yeah. So it got bumped off the track for a while, but it'll come back because that's what those real relationships do.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the fact that you included that rather than have it just smoothed over right away in order to kind of grease the skids of the story to move along, that's another thing that I think is positive, that you did that. You put that in there, and it wasn't overly simple, simply ironed out.
Right.
I
And
think that's good.
it's still kind of hanging out there, you know. They just came to kind of a place where there was no bridge, and they were both nervous and scared about it and trying to figure out how do you, first of all, how do you throw away a lifelong friendship? You know,
Right.
but the words that were said were hurtful. And it's not
Hmm.
like they haven't had hurtful, words between them before, but now they're more mature, they have more responsibilities, getting over stuff. It's like, how much time do you give to resolving issues based on the things you have to prioritize in life. I think the readers will be happy with the way it ends, but it also shows the resiliency of relationships.
I'm on. Okay.
No worries. It also shows the resiliency of relationships, and relationships are hard,
Hmm.
especially the better they are in some ways, the harder they are because you have to show up. You can't let just think that things are going to improve because they always have. You know,
Right.
you don't know, somebody's going through something personally, your words impact them or hit them differently at a certain point in life because now they're not, it's not happening with kind of a deaf ear, it's an ear from a person who's been currently going through some things that make it more difficult for them to just say, okay, I forgive all.
Yeah. Yeah. And it reminds me of one of my relationships with a dear friend that the relationship just stopped years and years ago, decades ago. And, to this day, I don't know why, and I can't find out why.
Mm-hmm.
So life is like that,
It is.
not everything can be resolved easily over a cup of tea or have a couple of drinks or whatever, which, in the scenario of the dreamers, that's kind of what you would expect. Okay, let's go out, let's deal with this and get it smooth over simply because we want it to be resolved.
Right.
But, life just does not work out the way we want it to all
Yeah,
the time.
exactly. David, you know, I love you. I adore you. And I appreciate you so much for coming on and just chatting with me. It was so great to get not only a male perspective, but a pastor who has read The Rancher and Stilettos. You know, I love you. And because this is Cocktails and Conversations, I got to cheer out.